This is Pop Culture Confidential, and I'm Christina Yerling Biru. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. We're interrupting your weekend and your summer vacations for an episode about what may be some of the biggest Hollywood industry news of the summer. AI, is it Hollywood's biggest dilemma? On this show, we'll discuss the news that Luca Guadagnino's film Artificial about OpenAI CEO Sam Altman has been dropped by Amazon, which just happens to have a partnership with OpenAI. But also, there are many partnerships forming between creators and AI tech. A24 just announced a $75 million research partnership with Google DeepMind. At Cannes, we learned that Steven Soderbergh is embracing AI. Scorsese has signed a partnership with AI image generation startup Black Forest Labs, and Netflix has acquired an AI filmmaking startup funded by Ben Affleck. These are just a few examples. Have the tech bros taken over Hollywood? I'm very happy to discuss this with a journalist, author, friend of the show, John Bleasdale. Thank you for joining me. Both of us happen to be in Italy and we're hot.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, Christina. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
I thought we'd start with the Luca news. So this movie, Artificial, it's pretty much completed. It's a big movie. It stars Andrew Garfield as Altman, Monica Barbaro as the former chief technology officer, Ike Barinholtz as Elon Musk. We would have wanted to see that. According to reports that I've read, the filmmakers were kind of taken by surprise. Out of the blue, Amazon said that no, we are not going to do this anymore. And they've been shopping it around to other studios, which was pretty stunning because I'd heard that it was going to premiere at Venice. And what do you make of this?
I think that there is a very chilling effect that is occurring throughout the whole media landscape at the moment, in which creatives, and not only creatives, but also journalists such as ourselves, are facing dilemmas brought on by the failure of sort of the liberalism that we all were assuming would just persist from now until forever and get better. And I think Trump has opened the door to a landscape in which power does what it wants and brooks no opposition. And I think you see this with Jeff Bezos and the Washington Post. You see this with the Murdochs. We've seen it for years and years. But the difference is with the Murdochs, there was an element in which he was definitely a very media manipulator, and he ruined Australian politics, he ruined British politics. He's got a lot to answer for. But there was also a sense that he would, to some degree, leave the artists alone, and he would let people have their head. And even Silvio Berlusconi, we're in Italy now, was a huge publisher and film producer, had a studio, had a television channel, and there was an element to which that control has been massively damaging to the country. But there was also a sense that if you wanted to buy Paul Gainsbourg's criticism of Berlusconi, you would go and buy it at a Berlusconi bookshop, and it was printed by a Berlusconi publisher. And so there was an element in which they didn't mind what was being said as long as they were selling books and selling tickets to the films. Nowadays, it seems that they feel that they want to win the culture wars as well, and they want to do this by brooking no opposition. And the Luca Guadagnino film, we only need to look a few years ago with something like The Social Network, in which Mark Zuckerberg was portrayed, and the birth of Facebook was portrayed in a way which was quite critical. It wasn't necessarily completely a takedown or a lambasting of, but it was quite a critical piece of work, suggesting that he was a bit of a friendless twerp who
that he did it to get girls.
Yeah, he did it to get girls. He did it. There was a lot of misogyny written right in there. I mean, I think it could have been much harsher, in fact. But there's the idea that there is a certain artistic freedom, and you should be discussing this. I think here there's a real sense that that freedom has been curtailed, and it will have a chilling effect on other artists, film directors, and writers of like, or imagine being a commissioning producer in a production company and thinking, well, if we do that, we can forget Amazon. If we do that, you know, will we be able to sell to Netflix? Will we be able to sell to, you know, all these other outlets, which are quickly being sort of corralled into ever
Well, we have
small.
the evidence here already. What we possibly believe is that this, I mean, Amazon has pulled the plug on this because they have a deal with OpenAI, but several of the studios you're mentioning, Netflix, A24, I think Focus, if I'm not mistaken, have passed on buying artificial. So, I mean, there can be a side of this possibly if the movie's bad and they don't want to take the risk. I mean, if you want to do a movie that will be controversial to your bosses, then you want it to win Oscars and be really good. But I happen to have read many people who have actually either read the script or seen a version of it who say that it is good. So they're probably passing for other reasons. So at the moment, it's, I think, Mubi and Neon who are left.
I would argue that there will probably be a whispering campaign to that effect that this was not up to the quality of Guadagnino's ultra films, but other films, sorry. But I think Guadagnino, I've not necessarily loved all his films equally, but he does not make bad films. He doesn't make even films I didn't like. They're quality. I never thought, well, why did they release this? That's not the reason. And I don't, and I don't think that hasn't ever been explicitly posited. I'm sure there is a whispering campaign, but that hasn't been posited. But I mean, everywhere we go, everywhere we look, we see great big corporations which are compromised in the current political environment. So you just mentioned Mubi there, and Mubi lost, I think, something like 20% of its inscriptions because it was participating in a I'm not sure exactly how you'd call it, a fund. It was taking money from a fund which was essentially involved in weapons development to do also with Israel. I think there is a certain naivety, or there is a certain attempt as well there's a naivety in audiences, and there's attempt on the part of corporations to make corporations cuddly. So we have A24 and people getting A24 tattoos because they like some Ari Aster film. And there are people who love Mubi because, granted, Mubi did bring and satisfy a certain need in the streaming landscape. It brought in art house and made it available in a way that it hadn't been available before on streaming platforms. Great. But all of these corporations end up being very much sullied by the background deals that are being made.
Yeah, I've talked a lot here about, on the show about Paramount, CBS, all the talk show things that have been going on. So, I mean, this is just a new train that's coming into the station. But you mentioned A24 because they have actually found themselves at the center of this debate because they recently announced that they have a $75 million deal, a research partnership with Google DeepMind, which is AI, which of course several of these fans that tattoo themselves were really surprised by. What do you make of this? What do you make of Soderbergh? What do you make of Scorsese? Are you and I and some of us being too Luddite and too scared?
Well, the Luddites were right. The Luddites were the poor half of there were skilled workers who were being rendered redundant by machinery which was being operated by children. We often forget that part. we often forget the part that the exploitation continued on a human level. It wasn't just machines took over and people had to go and find new jobs. They were still exploiting people. You know, the cotton that was being made by the machine was being picked to put into the machines to make textiles, was being picked by slaves. So, you know, when we use the word Luddite, I think we should be a little bit cognizant. I'm not sorry. That sounds like I'm having a go at you. I'm not.
No.
But I'd be quite proud to be a Luddite if we take on the full complexity of the word, which is let's have a look not at just the technology in isolation, but how it relates to people's lives overall. These are huge sums of money they're talking about. And I'm young enough to remember the writers' strike when everybody was saying, we don't have the money, it's financially impossible, there's no money tree we can just shake, people aren't going to cinemas anymore, the commercial environment is. And then all of a sudden they have, you know, tens of millions, hundreds of millions to you know, I'm sorry, do we swear on this podcast? I forget.
Absolutely.
Piss away on this is a relatively mild swear as well, but to piss away on a technology that isn't even there yet. And to that point, the Steven Soderbergh documentary we saw, John Lennon, Lennon's last interview, which showed at Cannes and which employed a lot of AI as well as documentary footage and a beautiful. The actual best part of the documentary was the thing Soderbergh had least to do with, which was the actual interview itself. John Lennon is there as a committed, intelligent artist talking about authenticity. And as he's talking, his words are being taken literally as prompts for a cartoonish, hyper realistic rendering, which just looks like shit. And the Soderbergh who made the Limey and Sex, Lies and Videotape ought to be ashamed of himself. It just looks awful. I mean, I think there's a problem with old people using technology in the way, you know, granddad and grandma shouldn't necessarily have Facebook accounts. They don't know how to use it. They're not aware of the dangers. It's like watching your uncle on Tumblr. You know, leave it alone, Soderbergh. Go back to the good German. Make films with black and white. You know, I mean, there are lots of. I mean, in a way, I admire Steven Soderbergh because he does experiment with things and things like Presence. You know, there's not a film that totally worked, but I'm glad he's doing that. But if you experiment, one of the things you have to understand is that most experiments fail.
Just to read A24's statement when they went into this partnership, they say, part of it, we're working side by side with DeepMind's researchers to learn and build, having an active hand in shaping new tools and workflows. So I think kind of the same as what Scorsese was saying, that I think what they're saying is they're trying to get ahead of it and using it for good and making budgets leaner and things like that. Do you buy that?
No, I mean, I spent last week at the Cinema Ritrovato Festival in Bologna, and you see a film like The Man Who Would Be King, which these days, you know, people say, oh, you wouldn't make that these days. And you wouldn't, because you wouldn't have that many extras. They'd all be digitized. You wouldn't use wonky matte paintings. You'd use CGI. And you probably wouldn't go and shoot on location in Morocco. You'd use, you know, you'd use a little bit of somewhere, and then the rest of it would be green screen, and it would be a bad film. It would not be anywhere near as good a film, and it wouldn't be in the real world, and it wouldn't engage you as much as The Man Who Would Be King engages you after all these years, and will continue for the rest of time. I feel that it's very strange to hear Martin Scorsese talk about storyboarding as if it's some sort of boring stage of filmmaking that just
And if
needs to be.
there's no human doing it,
Well,
I mean, it's an art.
when you
Either he's doing it or someone else is doing it. I don't care who does it, but
absolutely, and it's you discover. You know, Joan Didion said, "I don't know what I think until I write." You know, the process of writing is not some impediment to having something written. The process of writing is where you work out what you want to write. So if you're giving that part to a machine, you're actually missing the whole activity of writing. William Hazlitt said painting a picture is the art of seeing. It's the engagement between you and the world. It's not just creating a visual, another visual version of the world, a visual rendering of something out there. It's about you, your hand, your eye engaging in the world. And without understanding that absolutely vital embodied experience, I mean, artificial intelligence, it's a misnomer to begin with. Intelligence doesn't exist without physical bodies. The digital mind doesn't have anything in the comparison of the complexity of the brain. There's no way, it's nowhere near the complexity of the human brain. It's nowhere near the complexity of a monkey's brain, So the fact that we're using it, and the counter examples are beginning to pile up of how many mistakes AI is making and how many real blunders people are making. Somebody was Googled something about an artist. I think it's Fusil, and it came back with a recipe for pasta because it was assuming that we meant fusilli. You know? I mean, we know this on a day-to-day basis. When you type something into Google nowadays, it says, I'm thinking. So straight away, it used to be instant. Now it's slow. Mm. And then you have to scroll past what it's thinking because that bit is useless to get to the actual search results. So, I mean, maybe this will be a period we will look back on and we will say, no, it was great. But we had to get there. This is like the bicycle with a massive wheel and the little wheel at the penny farthing, mm-hmm. And it was like, yeah, obviously that was a stupid bicycle. And then we're all riding around.
Now we have a good bicycle.
Yeah, exactly. So we're in the penny farthing stage, we could say. And that might be the case, but I think we've got to be very careful about this because people's lives are going to be ruined and art is going to be spoiled.
It's so interesting in the case of A24 because they have this huge success with Backrooms. 20-year-old, I guess now 21-year-old Kane Parsons, who's come out against AI. He's come out against AI at the same time that they're in this deal, which I think has confused and even enraged a whole lot of their followers. But is it really about the art? Isn't this just about money and who owns what and corporations? And
it's all about money. And by the way, all of these studios which are working with these artificial intelligence sort of funds and companies, they're all opening up their back catalogs to them as well. So there's something to be said about that the intellectual property of the studios is going to be.
Some of them are saying they're not, but I'm pretty sure they will.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll see. But I think that I'd be very surprised if they're going to firewall that effectively. But no. To get back to the point of the big successes of this year, Backrooms and Obsession. I mean, the thing that made both those films, I wrote an amazing article about this, wonderful article.
You did.
Everybody else is saying.
And I did a good interview with.
Amazing interview, very well done. I think we are great. There's no doubt. But the thing about both those films was that they were both good ideas. They had good stories. They told good stories. They had good ideas. They explored them. They and that sort of that's the special effect that you want to be looking at, and that's why you want to be paying people like writers more, and stop cutting corners when it comes to things like scripts. I think it's scripts that you need to be pouring, that 71 million or however much for a thing. Pay some writers to do some good work. Write a bunch of spec scripts and judge them on, how interesting the ideas are.
But I guess they're saying the money is coming from there.
I mean, to go back to what you said earlier about, is it just a thing of financials? Yeah, yeah, absolutely it is. I mean, how many films have we watched which are set in Paris but filmed in Budapest? And you sit and you watch them and you just go, that's kind of Budapest, isn't it? That's not Paris. I mean, it's just, I know what it is. It's a wide European boulevard. And so everybody. So you lose the specificity of place. You lose the reality. That you lose and that's dangerous because it just means that we end up having a view of the world, which is based on a series of cliches, the same five streets, the same, an establishing shot of Paris, and then off we go to Budapest or Vienna or establishing shot of New York, and off we go to Toronto. Occasionally it'd be nice for someone to say, here's a thing that Soderbergh did in Out of Sight. There are two prison scenes in Out of Sight, and the studio said to him, it would save $1 million if we shot those two things in the same prison. We just do a different part of the prison for both things. He said, no, the light will be wrong. I want one prison here to be this prison, and I want to go to another prison to film the second prison scenes. And he made that decision because it was better for the film. It made a better film. How many people watch Sight and say those are two different prisons? That's amazing. Probably nobody. But at the same time, that's the sort of commitment we need to see to making a good film rather than a cheap film.
And to your point, this summer with Obsession and Backrooms showed that if you make a good movie, people will come. The whole thing about people are not going to movies and we're not, I mean, it's been one of the most successful summers on very small budgets and very interesting movies that we've seen in a while. You wrote an article in the New World called Hell Grind. You actually have seen a fully AI generated movie.
I haven't seen the full movie. This was based on the trailer. It was very difficult to get to see the movie. So it was a market screening in Cannes. I had a friend who went to see the movie, Ed Potton of the Times. So I talked to him about it. And he said, oh, well, it was better than the new Nicholas Winding Refn film, Her Private Nightmare, which is neither here nor there. but in a sense, I would kind of, I mean, in one sense, that's a cheap, that could be a shot at Refn. But I kind of think at least a Winding Refn film is definitely a Winding Refn film. And so somebody is responsible. You can blame him. This Hell Grind, I watched the trailer. It's a series of cliches. It's a series of bad cliches. It looks photorealistic. Everybody's teeth is perfect. Everybody looks sort of like an actor. So there's someone who looks sort of like Charlize Theron, and there's someone else who looks sort of like Scarlett Johansson, and so it has that. There's a
How weird.
Yeah, exactly.
Like uncanny.
Oh, there's definitely a lot of uncanny valleyness about the film, and about the trailer, as I said. And then the funny thing is that at the very end of the trailer, it says, uh, come and see the film on May the 21st. And it has like a TH instead of an ST. So it's not May the 21st, but May the 23rd. And I'm just thinking, well, that's it, isn't it? There you go.
No one could correct that.
You pay peanuts, you get monkeys. There's no care to this. It's a proof of concept. It's a sizzle reel. But even your sizzle reel, you haven't taken the time to get right in a very basic way. I mean, it's almost like if 5 people watch that video, 3 people are going to say, "Oh, that's wrong." So how many people watched that trailer before it was just put online? It's a really it's a very depressing idea. Now, okay, this is a sort of movie that is hyped by a company that itself is essentially selling itself as a possible alternative to VFX houses. The director and the writer of the movie are have IMDb pages, but this film is nowhere on those IMDb pages. So I feel like they've taken the money and they're running as fast as they can. Um, will this be the future? Yeah, there will be the AI Final Fantasy will happen at some point, or the AI Toy Story will happen at some point. And there will come a moment where it is good enough to put in front of a cinema screen and say this is a film, and for people not to necessarily be able to tell the difference. And I think that will be a very dangerous moment. I mean, we're already at it with some things on Amazon. Several books in the top 10 lists are written by AI. I mean, look, if you get an AI to write hundreds of books a minute, you can pour them all out onto Amazon and sell them all for 99 cents. And it doesn't matter if anybody reads them, as long as they buy them, as long as they click on them, you'll be making a lot of money. The same is true with Spotify, is having real problems with AI music, which is being listened to. I mean, if you've only got it on in the background, or you only, you know, want to spend a few minutes doing so, if you don't care about any of this stuff as art, then we really are screwed.
Going back to your bike metaphor, I mean, do you see it seems almost impossible to say we're not ever going to use AI or this is has to stop. I mean, what do you see in a positive world for art? How do you think we should go about this?
Um, I think there has to be, and there won't be. So I'm very pessimistic. Um, I don't think I think the concept of what art um, is swiftly disappearing, even as we live in a much more I mean, you look. I walked through a railway station earlier today, and everybody's got headphones on. Everybody's listening to music. So we listen to more music now than we've ever listened to. We watch more visual media now because we're watching TikTok videos on our phones, or Netflix, or binging shows, or watching films on our iPads, or on our big screen TVs, more than we've ever watched, and all of that is cinema of a kind. You know. Um, but what we don't really have is or what's things like Obsession and Backrooms, and hopefully what Oppenheimer and Barbie did a few these moments that bring us together, and we actually start talking about what do these stories mean to us, and what do these stories mean to our world. That is still happening, and I hope it will still continue to happen. But it feels like it has to happen almost in spite of technology rather than because of it.
Mhm.
And I feel that we really have to have a proper discussion about what we want art to do and what we want art to. But that'll never happen, and it never has happened ultimately. We don't have those public intellectuals anymore who, like Marshall
Particularly
McLuhan.
not when the money is coming from certain
No,
directions.
no, exactly. And I really think this is sort of late stage capitalism shit. I think this is real feral capitalism shit. I think this is kind of also the least of our problems. I mean, it's the least shitty of a load of shitty problems. But it is a
Yeah,
problem.
I'm laughing, but I
No, no.
agree.
I think that pained laughter is a fairly understandable. I mean, hopefully, I'm really hoping some bright kid is going to come up and show us the way, and she will have a and will blow me away, and I'll be like, oh, okay, now I get it. Okay, this is good. That's absolutely. But I worry on a much more sort of fundamental infrastructural sense that all of these companies are just sucking up huge amounts of resources, burning a lot of carbon, and we're sitting now talking about it in rooms with the air conditioning off, which it's 40 degrees outside in Rome. It's June. I mean, God, what's going to happen when it's July and August? And the most the biggest growth in technology that we've got at the moment is something which is absolutely going to make the situation worse. So, and the people who are criticizing this, the people who are talking about it and thinking about it, or even just portraying it, as in Luca Guadagnino's film, are being gagged and are
Yeah, the politics.
so. I mean, when it all comes around, it's just like, you know, even that tiny thing of having, King Lear's fool say some truth to power, even that is not being allowed anymore. But Elon Musk, it could all come tumbling down tomorrow. There could be a revolution. I mean, you look at history, and generally speaking, hubristic leaders who think they're invincible tend to be Vince.
Do you think we'll ever see artificial?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think somebody will pick it up. I remember the interview with
The Seth Rogen?
the Seth Rogen and James Franco film, and they just ended up sort of putting it on the internet for free. So I could imagine something like that happening if that, or Barbera at Venice screening it with a special license or something. Yeah, I could imagine something like that occurring. It would be interesting. I mean, if they yeah, it sounds like a media manipulation in itself, but if they spin it right,
Mm-hmm.
it could be very good for the film. The film they didn't want you to see.
Here
You
it
know,
is.
that on every poster. And put that on every poster, and you'll get people going. Because I thought that's the other thing is these places are really unpopular. I mean, people don't like AI slop. Wherever they're trying to open a data center in the States at the moment, people are, the whenever it's put democratically to the vote, um, people are voting against it in huge numbers. So, the fact that Elon Musk is considering sending things to space because nobody wants the data centers, it's just like, yeah, this is not a technology that is being universally embraced, and it's not a technology that is even there yet. I haven't seen. I mean, do you remember like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, they were talking about curing cancer? They've shut up about that. I've not heard that little promise go. Um, the singularity and all that nonsense. I don't hear that much anymore, and all I'm hearing about are governments giving them a lot of money and then becoming less efficient than the technology that was already in place, the old technology.
Beholden in different ways.
Yeah, exactly.
So, well, we'll have to see. We'll be watching, right? John, where can everyone read and what are you doing now? And what are you working on? Are you using AI?
I'm funnily not. I was going to swear again. I was going to become a right old potty mouth. Um, no, I mean, do I ever use AI? I mean, I've occasionally done that thing that everybody does, I think, which is ask a few questions and just see what it's done. But I've never used it creatively, and I've never used it in my writing because shoot me, I like writing. I enjoy. I'm not. I'm that. It's why would I take away the bit I enjoy? If AI could clean my house or do something that I
Oh, that'd be
don't enjoy.
wonderful. Then I'd use it.
Yeah,
Wash
exactly.
my clothes,
Well,
hand
precisely.
fold them.
Exactly. That would be best. But no, I'm working on a biography of Sean Connery. I can actually announce that's a bit of a scoop. I don't think I've publicly announced it, but I signed the contract this week, so that will be coming out probably October 2027.
Amazing, great. And what about articles that you're working on as well? Where can you read?
I'm writing on a regular basis in the New World, and I write quite regularly for Sight and Sound, especially book reviews, and my podcasts, Cinema Italia, and Writers on Film are continuing an episode a week each, which is a little bit of a workload. But again, I enjoy it.
I hear you.
Get AI to do that. What about you? use it, Christina? Do you ever use AI?
I have asked, for example, before this summer actually, like to give me a really good route for vacate. Like if I'm going from here to here and I want to stop in 4 or 5 different places, could you give me a good route?
But even what you're saying there, with a map and a good notebook, you know what I mean? Or just on the internet, just searching for things, that's quite a fun thing to do, isn't it? Put your own itinerary together, or like people were saying, oh, I use it for recipes, but all you're doing, I mean, just open the fridge door, look at what you've got, and use your imagination.
But if you ask it Google a question today, isn't it AI or have I miss?
It's AI straight off.
Yeah.
Everything become AI, like they sort of sneaked it in the back door essentially. So yeah, because it used to be you'd ask for a recipe and then the BBC site would come up. And that's the other thing that actually that's an additional point that is directly related to the work we do, which is a lot of advertising revenue used to depend on search engines spitting out or giving you articles to read when you searched for something. But AI uh, just gives the results of the articles, reads the articles, and sort of puts it in their answer. And no one's clicking on the articles. So the articles that me and you are writing. So if somebody says, should I go and see the new film that was done by AI, Hellgrind? It might refer to my article as a way of giving an answer, but the person asking the question won't click on that article, and so it won't show up as a reader, even though the information has been directly derived from that. So, again, as a Luddite, a proud Luddite, look at the human relationships, look at the human exploitation cost which is taking place. They're taking my work, the publisher's money, because that's work has been paid for, and they're not giving anything back. They're cutting in or between the reader and the publication and essentially stealing the information and giving it away. And that's that will mean that people like us could find that we don't get paid for those articles anymore.
Well, I mean, look at what's happening to journalism and institutions, and yeah, we're already there in spades.
Truth, they already did that. They kind of anticipated it. They said we're going to have AI in a couple of years, so we'll just get rid of everybody anyway. And the BBC is now, institutions like the BBC are losing thousands of employees, and that's irreversible. That's
Everywhere.
the BBC.
Well,
How,
on that note, this is depressing. John, will you come back and talk to me about a good movie or about your upcoming
yeah,
book or Connery or something else next time?
just talk about our
If
favorite
we're
actor.
still here.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Christina.
Thank you so much for joining me as always. And everyone else, you can follow Pop Culture Confidential wherever you get your podcasts. And I'm on Instagram and X at Christina Biro. So talk to me there. Thank you so much, John. See you next time.
Bye bye.